I'm Jason Sylvia, and this is the Creative Capital Show. A show about creative people and how those creative people turn into entrepreneurs by taking their creativity and turning it into a business and facing all the trials and tribulations along the way. Food and service industry workers suffered massive setbacks during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. No pandemic, however, could stop the creative and entrepreneurial spirits of this episode's guests, Gretchen Lizarda and Monica Martin. Gretchen and Monica are the founders of Juicy Market PVD, a brand that supports small businesses and vendors throughout Rhode Island. Gretchen and Monica's combined experience as both small business owners and nightlife industry veterans have given them a unique perspective on what a shopping experience can and should be. This, along with their network of local vendors, unique venues, and entertainers, allow for Juicy Market to provide a shopping experience unlike any other. In this episode, I speak with Gretchen and Monica about the logistics of running a weekly market, how to utilize social media for physical retail events, how Juicy Market adapts to various venues, why shopping is an experience, not just a transaction between people, advice for vendors, and a whole lot more. And it all started with a Galentine's Day party. Enjoy. Gretchen Lizarda, Monica Martin, Juicy Market PVD. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. I want to start off with, I've noticed that with the both of you, this business that is Juicy Market PVD, for either one of you is not your first rodeo. It seems like you have other businesses, you're managing other businesses. We're recording this in Black Sheep right now.
Yeah.
And Monica, I know you work for, right? You manage Black Sheep. You don't own it, but you work for Black Sheep. So you have this experience in management. And then Gretchen, you have Jaded Candle.
Correct.
So not your first business, not your first rodeo, and yet you have Juicy Market. So I wanted to ask since you were managing and working and having these businesses already, what led you to go, hey, I want to take on more work. I want to do something else now.
We just found 15 minutes more in the day to bulk up every single day.
Literally.
So those extra 15 minutes, you're just really getting it in.
No, I think with the both, Gretchen also used to manage Brass Monkey and still is there. So that's kind of how we met. But I think that we know we have a platform and we wanted to make sure that we gave small businesses an opportunity a part of our platform. So that's kind of how we found more ways to get it going. And
yeah, I just feel like we were doing markets. And I think it was just kind of like, am I allowed to say this? We were spending so much money to do markets where it's kind of like, hey, we work in restaurants, we have a location. Why are we not hosting markets? So when we first started last summer, we would just get a ton of our friends who had small businesses during COVID. And we would just host these block parties where it was kind of like local DJs. We were serving food.
So when you say the block parties, were these block parties that were respectively at Black Sheep and Brass Monkey?
So they were called WHAM. So it was Westminster Artist Market, directly in front of Black Sheep, Coal Fire Pizza, and Barnaby's.
Yeah.
And then the block parties at Brass were our anniversary parties.
yeah, I think the anniversary party is where we threw a market over there.
Correct.
Well.
Yes, we did actually. Yeah, we did do that. And then last summer we just did it in the summer, and then we kind of just stopped for some reason. Why did we stop?
Well, because that wasn't our main focus. I think at the time we were like we said at the beginning, we both do a lot, and we're perfectly fine with always being busy and doing a lot. But then we kind of got with each other this spring and we were like, did we do a good job? Like, how do we feel about the markets that we did? Do we make this a business and open it up to more people than just our friends?
Yeah.
Other people that we've met doing different markets with our small businesses ourselves. So I think that's kind of how we launched it off.
Yeah. I also think like we do a good job because we have weekly markets where if you want to do this full time, you're not doing it once a month. So there's always going to be a market every week for you to network and promote your business.
Yeah, and sometimes multiple days a week. We started doing those Thursday night markets at Hotel Providence, and it's just good for people, especially there's so many small businesses out there and people trying to make a name for themselves, as well as the venues that we throw our markets at. Those are, I mean, Hotel Providence is a great wedding venue. They have a beautiful courtyard. They don't use it for much more than an event space.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've noticed like there's like a lot of potential there, but
Absolutely.
it's like not being utilized. I mean, I could see in the winter, but like in the spring, summer when like there's nothing happening there, it's like you have a space.
Yeah,
you use it, and
well,
it's like,
they're really busy with weddings.
Yeah,
so they needed someone to be like, "Hey, we're gonna take over this and do it for you," you know, because they didn't have the time, and we had the networking. So
I want to backtrack a little bit, just because I think that's all good information. It's making me think of like side questions that I want to ask later, but just from like a chronological perspective. So you both met by working for Black Sheep / Brass Monkey, respectively. That's how you both met.
Yep.
Did you already have your other businesses established, like Jaded Candle, for example, and stuff while working for, or did those things come after?
So I started at Brass 8 years ago, and then I managed 5 years ago until last summer. I started the Jaded Candle during COVID because we were closed for a long period of time. And then I just needed to start doing other things besides just being at home and watching Netflix and doing distance learning with my son. And then I thought I was going to stop. And when I did, I just felt very like empty, if that makes sense. So then I continued to do it. And now 2 years later, it's still going. And I'm really glad that I did because now it's just a lot larger than I thought it would be.
And then Monica, were you managing here at the time?
So I've been managing here for 6 years, the entirety of this being open. Love Black Sheep. But also during COVID, I was going stir crazy, just like Gretchen, us being multitaskers. I started Metal and Mirth, where I repurposed vintage Playboys. So I started doing markets, selling my own product and just kind of getting my creativity out there. That's kind of how Juicy Market started. We were like, oh, we both do these markets. We have a fun thing we do. Let's try to throw one here at Black Sheep. We shut the street down and we had a great time. It kept going.
So you both were doing markets, attending markets, trying to push your own product that you had made.
Mm-hmm.
And then you both get together. It's like, hey, we're doing these markets. We work at a venue. We work at a venue such as Black Sheep and Brass Monkey, but Brass Monkey's in a physically different location. But you work at a venue like Black Sheep where it's on like a main-ish street downtown next to other businesses. Like, hey, we should throw our own event. Can you walk through the logistics of like doing that for the first time? Because I think there's a lot of things that people don't think about throwing an event. Like, even though you have like the venue, like I want to say you have the venue in your pocket, but it's a lot easier when you work for the venue you want to promote it to because they know who you are rather than somebody coming in from the outside. I'm like, hey, I have this idea, and it's like, who are you?
Yeah,
Go
who
away.
are you? What are you doing here?
So how did you both come up with like, okay, what were some of the first things you figured out? Like, we need to have these ducks in a row before we can even present this to the owners of Black Sheep, and the fact that you have like other businesses involved and you kind of shut down the street. So what were the first things that you had to do? Like once you had the idea, okay, you're excited, but now like what was the plan to like get this first show? Can you walk me through that from nothing to the day of?
So the nothing was always something.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, gotcha.
Gretchen and I used to bartend together too.
Yeah.
So we always had like this, we work well together. So managing Black Sheep definitely helped with starting this. I have run events here in the past where I've had to go through the permit process with the city. And they've helped so much with like getting Juicy off the ground. because they were basically a black sheep market at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was kind of like our kindergarten, like our try was like, hey, let's see if it works over here.
Yeah, this was like the training wheels.
Yeah. We didn't really know that we were going to be Juicy Market when we first started doing markets. We kind of wanted to launch our own brand. We had a lot of friends. Also, like a lot of people in the restaurant industry started doing small businesses during COVID because
I was gonna say, is that how like you had so like because I like one question I want to get into a little bit more in depth, but when you were putting that together that first market, you got to find besides yourselves, you got to find vendors, right? And was it interesting that like COVID kind of like forced a lot of people like, oh, you got to do this other thing to like survive and make money, and then they're like, well, now's the time to try it, and then like because you worked in the restaurant industry, you had other restaurant people possibly going through the same thing. So did that make it easier to find like vendors, and also because you were also at other markets, so it's like, hey, like we know some other people too, like just from being around in that community?
Yeah, it was a combination of the both.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of our vendors last summer were a lot of our friends and people we met working in restaurants. Like I could name half of them just because we're still friends with them now. But I feel like last summer it was just so easy to find vendors because it was all of our friends that all started when we started. So we all understood each other and like how we worked. Where this year it's just there's so many more businesses that I did not realize were in Rhode Island. So now we're just working with so many other businesses and I think I love that just because we're networking with all these people and now we're just like friends with a lot of them now.
Yeah, I feel like we have like a huge family.
Yeah.
So in the going through like the process of that first show, it's like, okay, you've already dealt with the city for, other events that have happened at Black Sheep. So you have that experience. You have the knowledge of what permits you need to get to like shut down the street. I'm guessing because you've done these other events, those other businesses that participate next door, like Coal Fire Pizza and what have you, like they already know the drill. Yeah. So like there's that part. So you know the space, obviously. If you can walk through like not like if you didn't have those things already because you had that previous experience, for somebody listening to this that wants to start something like that, can you maybe talk through like, hey, the basics were like we needed the space, and this is how we're going to use the space. And then like here are the permits we need to get. If you could just go a little bit more into that, just from that first standpoint.
Yeah. So the basis of every market is location is the most important aspect. Like I think before we do anything, we make sure the location works. If you're going to start your first market, I totally suggest have it be a foot traffic base. People who don't know certain locations, they won't just go there on their own. And if they don't know your market, they're not going to go there on their own. So if you're going to start the best place, so we have Westminster Street, which is a well-known street downtown. A lot of people live in the city. And then you bring yourself onto the portal online for the city of Providence. Different cities have their own way of permitting. Providence has really streamlined their licensing. So that's great. You go on there. You can also call the city and they walk you through everything. They're actually pretty helpful. We have tried to do markets in like Cranston. There's a whole different, you have to like physically go down to City Hall.
I want to get into that in a little bit as far as like when they markets change location, but keep going.
Yeah. So if you are going to do Providence, they have a good team down there that will help you through it. And then after you get all your permitting down, you make sure people actually want to vend with you. So, Gretchen's really great at just finding the perfect vendors for the market. You do a great job at making sure everyone kind of fits together.
Yeah. How did you determine the roster for like the first event, even before it was Juicy? Like, how did you determine like?
Well, they were our friends, so we knew we liked their stuff. It was just like, hey, like hire your friends. You know what I mean? Well, like minds, like things.
Okay.
So I think that it just kind of came naturally, which was great.
Like I think we were just at the time we didn't have a website, so we would just DM them and be like, "Hey, are you free on Saturday? We're having a market on Westminster, and they serve food and drinks. Do you want to come?" And they would be like, "Yeah, sure."
And the food and the drinks aspect from just like a logistics and legal perspective, did that fall under you both running the event, or did that fall under Black Sheep because Black Sheep was serving
Under
food
Black
and
Sheep,
drinks?
yeah. So
Even because it's outdoors on their property, okay.
Yeah, so most events, we work with a venue already that has a liquor license. So that's how we're able to serve liquor at the events.
Rather than having to like try and figure out like, hey, we got to hire a bartender, make sure they're tip certified.
Yeah.
Make sure, okay.
That's like a whole nother process.
Yeah.
It's totally doable. It's not impossible to do.
I'm just guessing it's easier if like the venue already has that, and then that responsibility falls on the vendor, and then all you have to worry about is like vendors from a goods perspective for the show.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We just make it work on that aspect. But it's absolutely doable to get a liquor license. I believe it's like a catering license that you would have to get. But we always work with venues because the main focus for the venue to book us is they're going to profit off of the food and liquor sold during the event. So
they're going to profit off the number of people that are coming in and wanting to attend this. And, okay.
So that's why they're like, of course, no brainer. You bring people, we make money off of this, and then our vendors make money off of selling their goods. So
one thing I noticed with those events, and I think this is an interesting segue, but I want to go into it, is I remember flea markets or just like these outdoor markets from when I was like a kid. And it was always something I felt like, for anybody who ever ran the older ones, like it's not to offend you, but like they were kind of lame. Like from my perspective, in the sense of like, that's something my parents did. You know what I mean? Or like my grandma or my aunts want to go to, and I'm like bored as shit. Like want to go to this thing? I'm like, no, like that sounds boring. It's like vendors I didn't care about, or things like that, where I felt like,
you have to have a love for really old stuff at those ones, which I do. But
this feels. Was the idea from the get-go to make it feel like a party?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because like,
that's kind of how we were like, we're doing all these other markets. Let's kind of make our own like environment.
Yeah.
So we hire DJs or live entertainment.
I DJ'd a couple of them at Appenhock.
You shop, drink, dance.
Yeah.
At Juicy Market.
Yeah, it's just like a different. I don't know. Like there's plenty of great markets that we've done, and
by the way, the other markets
still.
that don't do that. Again, not trying to ride you guys. Just me personally, I was just kind of like, and then like, but yours has such a different vibe to it. Like yours, even the Winters Farmers Market that's on Sims, the Anti-Robot. I don't know the full. I'm trying to remember the full name, but the Anti-Robot
Club.
Yeah, Anti-Robot Club Market. Like the idea of not just like here's a market to buy stuff, but like the idea of shop, drink, dance. The idea of like let's make it a party-like atmosphere. So that was something from the jump that you wanted to do.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think anything that Gretchen and I want to do is a party.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, have you partied with us? I also think working in like nightlife helped a lot with what we wanted because we like saw what would bring people in.
That was going to be my next question. Like in working in nightlife, was there like, how much did that influence you in like, we're going to do this kind of daytime party vibe for the market?
Well, we always worked in like restaurant industry, like bar atmosphere. So I feel like just seeing people have fun, like just looking out. Like I remember we would work block parties. Like there were days we would just jump on the bar and just pour drinks, and it was just like this is a vibe.
Yeah.
Like I want to be out there in the crowd having a good time. So it's like we can easily just make this happen, but like in a very safe way. And we also wanted it to be kid friendly too. So it's not going to be like too wild where you can't bring your kids. Like my sons been to our parties, like our markets. And it's fun. It's just kind of like, it's just a vibe. Honestly, It's just a vibe.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we do the breweries. We know like there's awesome craft beer when we do it at Black Sheep or we've had our brass events. We always make sure there was fun cocktails, like it's the whole experience. You come to shop, but you stay to drink and eat and dance.
So I think going along with that, because I'm going to reference, I always like to plug my own stuff. I'm going to reference a previous episode, the one I did with Sudi, where we were, I brought up a quote from the head of Coca-Cola at the time. And he's like, hey, we don't sell soda. And, we sell nostalgia. We sell an experience. Like we sell, like when you open a Coke, we're not selling you Coca-Cola. We're selling you like the Coke you had like when we kissed that girl in high school, or like we were selling the Coke you had, like when you were with your dad at a ball game, like that's what, the head of Coke at the time was like, that's what we're selling. So with that being said, because, you're running these events, but you're not, like, the product is made by other people, right? The vendors. The food and drink is provided by the location that you're doing it at. The music, everything is provided by bands or DJs. So how would you both define like what you're selling under Juicy Market?
I feel like the experience. I mean, we put it all together for all of those, for you to enjoy the whole entire experience. Like, we see a great day. Like, so we're doing Park Market in Cranston before the holidays. We're like, oh, great. Park Theater, historic place. Everyone knows Park Theater who's from Cranston. I mean, I saw She's All That there when I was like 10 years old, and I thought it was amazing. But Ed Brady's doing a great job at rebranding that whole building. So we were like, hey, let's do something with you. So we know the space is great. We picked the space. And then we're like, what more can we do? So we're like, hey, Saturdays, we're going to do a little drag show. So not only can you come and shop, you can get an experience a drag queen on your Saturday afternoon while you're holiday shopping.
Yeah. While you're drinking a latte or spiked apple cider. Just saying.
Do either of you find that hard to package or market sometimes, that like you're not selling like a physical thing that's repeatable, you're selling an experience?
I don't. Honestly, I think we've kind of been doing this for so long in a different way, working in this industry, that it comes so natural to us. We're like, what we think of ourselves, like when we want to go to it, we love going out. I mean, it's harder now, but we love going out. So we're like, why are we going out? We just think of like what we would like. So we're basically marketing ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and then the reason why I want to ask that question is because I think sometimes it's, just because again, the point of this show is like the creative stuff, the experiential stuff, I'm doing air quotes, nobody can see me do this, the quote unquote, sexy stuff, but then there's like the logistical business stuff. And I think from a logistics and business side, it sometimes is a little tougher. That's why I want to ask that question. It sometimes is a little tougher to like, hey, I'm selling this thing, but it's not like a product per se. It's not like, here's this good you can take home, or like, I am selling you a drink and you're going to consume it, or like, I am selling you this digital product that you can download. Like, I am selling you an experience. And so it's
a memory that you never lose unless you know.
Yeah. But do you think that your experience in nightlife kind of helped do you think your experience in the nightlife industry, because that's what like nightlife is like, yeah, you're going to a place to like dance and drink, and you're like, there's a transaction there, you're paying a cover charge, but like if you're going to any nighttime establishment, it really is like they're selling you the experience that like, hey, our nightlife experience at here is better than the other person's nightlife experience at some other place, so come to our place. Do you think that experience in nightlife kind of helped you both wrap your head around like, oh, this is easy for us to sell an experience because we're already in that industry, just in a different way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're making it seem like all that we do is a lot easier than it is, for sure. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of hours that we put in. But I think it feels easy because her and I bounce off of each other so easily. So like, we know the product that we want to have. We know the experience. We also wanted to make sure we opened it up to all ages. So we are in the nightlife for sure, but I mean, you cap it. I don't want to be out until, I don't know, midnight. I like to go home at 10.
Oh my God. I want to be home by like 8:30. What?
But realistically, when we're out, we can't be home that early, but we try to.
We really do try.
So like, these are like day events that you get your shopping in, you get your drinking in, you get your eating in. I mean, if you don't drink, there's still even fun non-alcoholic drinks that are offered. So it's just kind of just a new experience that we're trying to give to people, other than like, hey, I'm having a night with my friends, and it has to be a night. It could be an afternoon now. It doesn't have to be, or it could be a night. Sometimes we do night markets, but you could be in bed at a decent time. You can still get your dancing in and your eating in.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like, what do you do during the day anymore? Like,
shop.
Exactly. or like you're going to a restaurant to eat with your friends.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's just put these
or
two
you
together.
You try to find an experience.
Yeah.
So this is kind of something we wanted to offer.
So another question I was thinking about was, what did you, like when you were doing that first show, even before Juicy, when you did that first show, was there a certain goal in mind that you were determining, like, yeah, this is success? Or was there like a certain feeling when, like, you know, like what to you was like, oh, this is real. Like we can make this into something. Like this can be an actual like sustaining business.
I don't know when that hit us.
Yeah,
we just kept doing it.
Yeah, I was terrified my first show. Like terrified.
Okay, actually, you know what? Can you walk through that? Because I think some people have that experience of like, oh crap, I don't know if this is going to work.
No, literally,
can you walk through that?
Terrified. I remember I was at work and I got a DM to do my first market, and it was a group chat with like 15 other people.
Wait, so running your first market or participating in one?
Participating.
Oh, okay.
And my friend convinced me to do it. And when I tell you, I had like 5 people with me my first market just because I had such anxiety. And it ended up being great that I could not stop applying for other markets. And then it stopped because there was no like outdoor markets like at all, unless you were like in Newport or in Boston. So then that's when we were like, let's do a summer market at Black Sheep.
Yeah.
And then it was just, I loved it because I felt like I was around all of my friends who were selling. And we knew everyone that was coming to the market because
so it felt like more of like a house party rather than
it was calm. It was very calm because I didn't feel pressure and everyone knew me. So it was just kind of like I was like talking to my friends about a product that I've been working on for months. Do you remember how you felt the first one?
My first market that I vended, I was so nervous too. I was just like, well, I repurposed Playboys from the 60s and 70s. So I also was so nervous that someone was just gonna like come up to me and I don't know, berate me and like be like, what are you thinking? Like this is schmut. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't know. I think of the 70s as a really fun time and I like wish I was there. So I think like by looking through the nostalgia of Playboys is also an experience. And I think I love like a brand and that's why Juicy is like our baby brand, you know, like, well, not a baby anymore, kind of out there now. But I think the whole idea of the Playboy is something I admired. And I think that's what Juicy is kind of like. We want to be more than just a market. We want like a whole experience. But yeah, I was terrified. And then after I did it, it was like a rush. It was like, oh my God, people like this.
Oh my God, that's the best feeling in the world.
So you do that first market, you're around the friends, you're around the homies, and it goes well. How did you both come up with the name and why the name Juicy Martin? Because without like if you're not seeing like the logo and the font and everything, all I can and like again the vintage paper, I'm like it's like a vintage like Playboy kind of like I don't know like a vintage sex mart like hey like vintage Playboy.
Oh my gosh,
that's
so
Juicy
funny.
Martin, like
oh my God.
You know like just here's a retro.
Well, yeah, we wanted. Okay, so we worked for Black Sheep and Brass Monkey, which are 90s influence.
Yep.
So her and I got together. We're like, we got to think of like a name that you will catch. Like we didn't want to just be like, I don't know. We wanted people to hear it and think.
Like
yep,
what is it?
Yeah,
like what is it?
Like,
what's going on?
Yeah, I had some thoughts. I was just like, wow, I don't know what I'm gonna be walking into.
So we basically what is it? Is it a Missy Elliott song?
I was gonna say Notorious B.I.G.'s Juicy.
Yes. Okay. But there was a Missy Elliott song. I just kept throwing out different 90s songs that like I enjoyed and that would make sense with us. And Juicy just kind of like it just stuck. Like it just was fun.
Are you gonna make another business called Candy Rain? Like you're just gonna keep going through like
Well, our markets when we were at Brass Monkey were Doo-Wop, and that was Lauryn Hill.
Yep.
So that was kind of yeah, but I think Juicy is just kind of the name that it could be all, you know, it could be anything.
Do you think that like, hopefully I'm using the right word here, that ubiquity behind the name, like that idea that it could be anything, do you think that helps like when it comes to like the branding or getting people attracted to it? Because it's not like, because some names are like very descriptive, whereas like this name is like, oh, you don't know what's gonna be there just based on the name alone. Do you think that that's helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I think when we're trying to build more, I mean, we want to be more than just the market. We want to, I mean, eventually just like branch out into these different experiences. So by having just Juicy, I mean, Juicy Market obviously is our markets, but to be able to grow, I think is the most important thing. I don't think we wanted to cap ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, the name Juicy.
I remember you were texting me all these like names, and I was just like, I feel like you could do better. And then Juicy, I was like, that's it.
That's it.
Like, that is it, Monica. You're brilliant.
So you have this, you have this brand. You already did your first show. You have the brand idea. When it comes to Juicy, was it more getting like the word out about the name and the brand Juicy and then doing your next event? Or was it doing the events first and then having like trying to like reinforce the branding and the name after? Like what kind of came first? Was it more like, hey, we're still doing these markets, but then like it was a slow transition into like putting them under like the Juicy like banner, the Juicy branding? Or was it like get the branding out first, get like the, online presence, the Instagram presence, and then like, okay, there's like maybe like a point where it's like now these events going forward are under this. Like if you were doing events before and they weren't under that name, like what was that transition like?
I think that so it was last summer where we did the Westminster Artist Market, which we still do. So that was kind of the brand just for that market. Juicy was when we got together and wanted to be serious that this is something that we were actually doing. Yeah. So to brand that, we tried as much as possible to blow up on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. I think our first market after Juicy Market PVD was Galentine's Day. That was our first Juicy market event. Under Juicy Market was this February.
Gotcha. And so the idea was get the online presence, get the Instagram presence first, and then throw one under that official banner.
Yep. So that was Galentine's Day.
Just from a strategic perspective, one, guessing you have it looks like you have presence on other platforms, but why Instagram, and what were some of the things that you did to have a successful presence on Instagram?
Instagram. Instagram is running the world these days.
Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and just like maybe like why Insta versus like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok.
Well, I think like we were marketing ourselves. I think how we always look at Juicy is like what we're interested in, because I think we both have similar interests, but we have broad interests, the both of us collectively. So we know that Instagram is what everyone's looking at. Not everyone. I mean, there are some people not on that platform, but we know people who want to go out to these types of events are on Instagram. So we try to market an experience on there.
I am all about social media. I think any free advertising that you could do for yourself and your business is like the way to go, because you can catch so many people that you do not know, that you would not come across. I can't tell you how many people that I have met like under Juicy from other platforms like the Brass Monkey platform or Black Sheep or Jaded or anything, where it's kind of like, it's just so crazy how social media works, where I think Reels are like the new thing. And so it's
I think
TikTok.
Instagram made it to, it's the only thing now.
For sure.
Like, you can't do anything else.
That's the only thing you really
basically,
see.
no, you're doing Reels or nothing.
You're just not going to post your stuff. So I think, and like on Instagram, I feel like you have to be consistent with Instagram and even TikTok. Like, and she's really good with Facebook, Monica, where it's like you have to post every single day, multiple times, so people can constantly see what you're doing.
I was gonna say, besides that, like, were there any other like tactical things that you did to kind of grow or blow up like Juicy on? Besides like the community that you have and friends and things were posting too, but were there certain like hashtags where like posting like certain times a day? Was there anything like specifically tactical that you're willing to give away? I don't want to reveal any trade secrets here, but that you were like noticing like, oh, okay, we need to post this way, or we need to do it this way, or we need to highlight these things. I
definitely suggest doing hashtags. They will save you. When I do hashtags on my story, I will hide the hashtag with a matching color in the background so no one physically sees the hashtag. And you have to hashtag everything. You want to hashtag
hashtag in the content, but not in like the post description.
I will do that sometimes, but that will be a completely different comment. Like it won't be in the caption, if that makes sense.
Okay, so it's a comment, not a caption.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And then I realized that you have to tag what you're looking for. So we're looking for small businesses. So you want to do that as a hashtag. If you're a small business, you don't want to tag that because other small businesses aren't looking for you. Does that make sense?
You gotta tag the customer. You're
correct.
You gotta tag the customer base or customer type that you're trying to find. You gotta tag that, or like the things that you think that at least that they're interested in that relate to what you're doing to find those people.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that helped a lot. And I also feel like you want to connect with everyone. So we would post when we were at a coffee shop, what we were eating that day, where we were talking to them, where it's like, where are you? Like that place looks cool, where it's not just us promoting come to our markets, where if you don't connect with us, we don't expect you to come and support us constantly. So I think even that helped. Even like today, posting we're doing a podcast, it's like, oh, you're doing that? That's so cool. Like you want to relate to every single person that you follow.
So, all right. So I think there's something really interesting there because, and I want both of your commentary on this because I think you struck one nerve that I want to ask about, because there's this idea, I think people will post on social media for their business. And I get the line of thinking in this way is that, it's more just like shouting. It's like more like, I guess, traditional advertising where it's like, here's this thing, come to this thing, or buy this thing, or like, I have this thing, isn't it great? And whereas, and I do see some of that, like obviously you got to promote the event so like people know when and where it is and they show up. But then there's all like you said, there's this sense of like, you're promoting these other businesses too that aren't necessarily your business, which I think is interesting. So you're making connections and you're trying to make connections with the audience and these other businesses. You're trying to do it in a direct way, but also like in an indirect way. Doing that, is that just based on that's how you both naturally natively speak when it comes to like, connecting with people online? Or do you think that there's the factor of like your product essentially is selling an experience which features other businesses, so you kind of have to do that? Like, is it that, or is it like the way you naturally do things, or is it a little bit of column A and column B?
I'm not going to say names, but there was a market that we did, and one of the vendors told us that they weren't good with social media. So then we were like, send us the pictures and a little bit about your business and we'll do it for you. And I think that's what started it, where it's kind of like, we are already on social media promoting this business, so we don't have a problem doing it for others either.
Have you charged extra for that?
No.
Okay. Just wondering if that was like another like service. Like,
I mean,
like, hey.
eventually it could grow to something like that. But I think the way that Gretchen and I are, we naturally want to support small.
Yeah.
Like we have a brand and of course we have a profit, but I don't think that's our main goal. I think it's just supporting like minds, because Gretchen and I were each different people. We had our own businesses and we got together and kind of wanted to create more. And I just think like, yeah, we are like on our Instagram when we are showing like where we're at, it's all the experience as well as making other people be known, like it's more than us, I think is like.
So it seems like the genuine, like, and I want to get your comments on this. Do you think it's because you both genuinely want to help and promote small businesses and put them on because you've had that experience yourself? Do you think that's like what comes through in the posts, and it comes and like that genuine feeling is what's really like helping you blow up on social media and making those connections? Is that like that?
I mean,
because,
I
like,
hope
there's a
so.
genuine
I
desire
hope
to like
that's how
help,
we
like,
come
to help
off,
people,
like,
rather than like, hey, we have this market, let's just promote. Like, no, like we genuinely like
we
the
want
market
everyone
is
to
the
do
vehicle
well.
for the mission of helping other businesses.
Yeah. I say it like, I wish when we first started, there was someone there to kind of guide us and like help us kind of how to start. Like, what are the steps that you take? Where
it's one of the reasons why this. So now you see now that you're doing this, you're helping somebody else. So you're like,
See?
oh, all right, I gotta take notes here.
Yeah.
But I love what we do. I love the people that vend with us. I love everybody. I think when they meet us, it's kind of like, wow, these girls are genuine.
The real people,
like they're
too.
not. Well, it's yeah, they're real. They're in person.
Yeah,
that's gonna lead to my next question.
Oh boy. But I love doing social media. I have to actually post today a few times. I love it. Like I want to get to know your business. And I think like for them to tell us about their business before we meet them, it's kind of like, okay, they seem super freaking cool. Like I can't wait to meet them. Like there's a few people that I like cyber stalked and I was like, wow, I really can't wait to meet you this weekend. And then I'm like, oh my God, hi, I just saw you on Instagram. And then I'll be like, oh, like, and I'm like, I'm Gretchen. Like a psycho.
I'm your new best friend.
Yeah, like you don't know yet, but we are.
Lisa, before I ask that question I was mentioning, I'm gonna ask a side question because I think there's some good tactical stuff here that I don't want to leave on the table. You mentioned that there was a vendor, a small business that said they weren't good at social media, and then you were gonna help them out.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have, or what have you noticed with the people who say quote unquote like they're not good at social media? Is it more tactical where they just don't know how to post? They think that they have to be trendy. Like, what are the problems you see, and what advice would you have? Like, do they not know how to tell their own story? Like, they can maybe tell it in conversation, or they know their business and they're trying to make it like seem more appealing. Like, what were the issues that you saw when trying to help people out that said they weren't, good at social media?
I have to, like, it's just so crazy.
And again, not to put anybody on blast, but just from like a tactical perspective, because somebody could be listening and be like, oh, all right, like, let me lean in and see, like, maybe what am I doing wrong here?
I even from like for myself, I think social media could be a little bit intimidating because if you don't have like 10,000 followers or like the best photos, it's kind of like you think like you're not good at social media. I definitely like one other person that we were helping. It was just kind of like I went through their social media and I kind of just suggested this is what you should do. I definitely suggest getting professional photos done of your work is like the number one thing that you should do. And then you constantly have that as content. I don't stop posting because you're not getting views. It's going to take a little bit for you to get to where you need to be. And there are times where I don't get a lot of views on my story, which is totally fine, but you have to just keep going because
is it fine?
I cry after, but it's totally like, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay.
Great. Just put those seeds down.
Okay. Like, I'm okay. Thank you. Okay. But you just have to keep going. Like, you're not going to get 10,000 views on one story. And you also have to like connect with every person that follows you. So like post like the other day, I accidentally posted Gossip Girl content on Jaded. I got so many DMs about it. I was like, oh my God, great. Like, I love that we're talking. Nothing to do with candles. Not one. It's fine.
So, question I wanted to ask, and something I've noticed in my research for this episode, and speaking about social media, is that Juicy is out there, the other vendors you promote, but trying to get information. I usually try to be like a Nardwar type. I couldn't get much on either one of you. And is that engineered? Like, because like you're both saying like you could promote your brands and everything on Instagram, and it's like, yes, you're selling yourselves, but then I was like, that's interesting, because I couldn't find any information on either one of you besides Juicy. So is that by design? Like, hey, Juicy's the thing to pay attention to. We're the thing to pay attention to when you show up or behind the scenes, or is that like a happy, like, I guess, accident?
Well, I think that comes from us being genuine about the small businesses and promoting other people.
Okay.
Like, it is about us, but it's not about us. Like, we don't want to be the main focus. We want small businesses in Rhode Island to be, or New England to be the focus. So
you're not trying to be the Michael Jackson, everybody else is the Jackson 5.
Yeah, no, we want Juicy to be Michael. We want Juicy to be like, hey, watch this juice, drink the juice.
I think you need to like trademark both of those, like watch this juice and drink the juice.
Well, yeah, we got some things that we've been bouncing back and forth that we want to, I mean, we're trying to be out there. We're working on it. We wanted Juicy to be the main focus, and we come after, but don't worry, we're coming for you guys.
I love that we're hard to find. I don't know why. even though we're really not hard
I know.
to find.
I feel like we're so out there in just our day to
I
day
think
life.
from an
So like,
in-person thing, yes, but like the digital, like if they're like I'm trying to go through art because I'm like I can't find anything on. Like, I find stuff on Juicy, can't find anything on the individuals. I'm like,
that's so
all
funny.
right, it's gonna be an interesting episode. Like now watch somebody research and be like, I found 20 art. I'm like, all right, fine, smart ass. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I've never like looked up Juicy, like tried to stalk us, but I now hearing
thanks for
that
using stalk. Now
makes-
everybody thinks I'm a
No,
stalker. Great. No, thank you. Thank you. No one's gonna come on the show anymore. Like, wow, that Jason guy's a freaking creepy stalker.
He's gonna get you.
Can we keep this?
Thanks. Thanks a lot. Well, good night, everybody.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
That was just gonna be a great outtake for social media. There we go. That's how you make moments, people. This is all planned.
Hey,
I don't even know who I'm talking about. Why am I talking like there's a camera here and like there is no camera?
I'm so glad we're not being videotaped.
Oh, me too.
Help others before helping yourself. I remember this interview about the behind the scenes of wrestling, and the subject was Ric Flair. Now, for those of you that don't know, Ric Flair is a legendary wrestler with a larger-than-life ego. What you also may not know is that behind the scenes, wrestlers loved working with Ric. The reason? Because he had a talent for making anyone else who was in the ring with him look amazing. I think about this because Gretchen and Monica are doing the same thing. Minus the ego, of course. Gretchen and Monica knowingly don't promote themselves as the face of Juicy Market, but rather use their time, energy, and their platform that is Juicy Market to help promote and establish other small businesses. And this strategy has paid dividends. So, take a page out of Juicy Market's playbook. Help establish others. It's great for networking and honing your skills. And if you're really good at it, you may just make a business out of it. Can you walk through just I know we walked through the first show, but just from like you have multiple shows, Stan. Can you walk through just when the planning begins and just like the steps you have to take to actually get a show to go off properly? Because are there certain steps you have to take care of first and others you take care of later? Especially when it's a venue that is not a venue you've like worked for. So let's say it's a new venue that you're like a new place where you're going to have the market at. Can you walk through that specifically? Because I think that probably has more steps involved and just like, hey, we got this idea to do this market here, but all right, now we have to go through steps like A through Z. If you can just walk through that.
So first is location. Location is everything to the market. So we kind of get together and where we want to be next. Some people have reached out to us, so that's great. Thank you for thinking of us. So once you get the location, then we measure. We kind of map out how many vendors we can fit in there, what sizes that would make sense for them. If we're out on the street, we like to do the 10 by 10 tent space, so people can spread out a lot more and make it fuller. But sometimes we're like in little rooms,
or like Apponog, like in a small area.
Apponog, yeah. We don't have. So you get a 6-foot table. That's it. We supply it. I think actually 5.5.
Yeah. In a rack if they had it.
In a rack if they have it.
When you say 6 foot and these 5.5, these are table sizes.
These are table sizes,
right?
yeah.
Or like the size of the area that you have. That's what you're referencing. Okay.
Yeah. So you either get a space size, or some like of the breweries specifically, they are smaller spaces, so that we have to use the tables in some of those breweries.
Because that's what
they have nowhere to put them,
Yeah.
and we want room for people moving, and so we give them that, we measure them out, and then we figure out how it's going to fit, and then we throw it on our website now. Before we used to DM everyone and try to make them work with us, but now we have a great kind of Rolodex of vendors that we've been working with. They're all so awesome.
Yeah,
and,
they are.
Yeah, it's great. So we kind of put it out there. We do like a little email blast of, hey, we got a new market coming in. So
And when you say email blast to vendors or email blast to the people like that?
To the vendors.
Okay.
Yeah. So then they know that there's a market.
And you have a sign up, not to interrupt, you have a sign up mechanism on your website too, right? If somebody wanted to vend, like there's a form to fill out.
Yeah, so that's the vendor sign up. We also have an email sign up, just so if you go on our website and you want to know our events that are coming up,
if you just want to follow. But if you're a vendor, there's like a specific vendor form that you can that somebody can sign up to.
Yeah, that you can like kind of like check off what events that you want to do.
Gotcha.
After that, so you can apply to the event. And then we usually have a flyer going as soon as possible. I do our graphics. So because I run a restaurant as well, sometimes I'm like a little worn out. So it takes me a little, like I need to be in the right creative headspace to make those flyers. So sometimes they're like done right away. If Gretchen and I have like really good, like, oh, we want the flyer to look like this, like I can bang it out. But sometimes it comes like a little later. And I think I've only
had creative activity like once.
Oh, no.
And it was for PVD Fest.
Yeah, but you do. No, all right, we have to give Gretchen a lot of credit because she is great on social media. All of our posts she does. I do not do those. If I do a post, I'm like, am I allowed to do this? Like, I just don't even do it because that's her bread and butter. I am more of like the back end in design and like emails and
messages,
spreadsheets,
permits,
the real fun stuff I get to do. But it's fun for me, which is weird. So we get the flyer together. And then we start promoting it. We like to put our events on Facebook, Eventbrite, so people know to come. And
we start. We'll like flyer. Like we'll go to different coffee shops and gyms, and
we drop off our flyers.
And we'll drop off, and we'll like sometimes just introduce ourselves and like what we're doing in that neighborhood.
So it's get the vendor. Like I'm sorry, not get the vendor. Get the establishment. Get the location.
Get the venue.
Yes. And just to kind of break this down a little bit more, when you let's say there's like a new location or something like the Park Theater in Cranston.
Mm-hmm.
Are you reaching out to them? Are they reaching out to you? And like, what are some of the things from like a location standpoint do you have to evaluate and like work within? Like again, like it could be a room, it could be a big outdoor thing. So what are some of like the things that maybe people maybe not realize or not recognize? It's like, hey, like cool, you have a location, but are there certain variables that you have to like consider or check off or talk to the vendor about, or the location? Does the location have like questions for you? Like
majority of the time, like the venues that we use, they want us to push a space that's unused. So like for Providence, Hotel Providence,
courtyard,
the courtyard was not.
We have this thing we have this asset that's not making us money. Help it generate cash for us.
And so I think with like Park Theater, they actually are using the comedy club, but not during the day.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like, hey, we have this space. Would you be able to use this? And we check it out, and we're like, yeah, we can do anything.
we got this.
So we just, I don't know. I think we have like that kind of visual brain, the both of us, that like can look at it and be like, all right, is this gonna work? We can do this. Yeah. And then it's same for like streets. If someone wants us to close down a street, we make sure that street would make sense, and if it's walkable, and like make sure we can get the permitting. So
I was gonna say, is there any like logistics on like permitting or like food and alcohol, especially if it's not a place that like Park Theater, I'm assuming, has a bar, but it's not a bar. So it's like, are there like considerations that you have to figure out for like?
Well, they have their own liquor license. Okay. Yeah, so that's so. Luckily for us, right now, all of the venues that we've worked with, we wanted them to profit off the food and alcohol. Yeah. So they have all that on site.
So they're providing the food and alcohol, but like, have you ever had to bring in like an outside food person or a food stand, or no?
We did for Sim Street. We had Jazz.
Yes.
We did have to bring food before.
Yep. Okay. But we wanted to promote the businesses that served alcohol in that Farm Fresh building.
Gotcha.
So the only thing we had to do was supply the food, which I believe she used a catering. She has a catering
business.
Like it's like a tax thing with a health department.
Yeah.
how do you explain it?
But the logistics of like the food and alcohol are outside of you. It's more like talking to the venue, making sure the venue understands what you want to do. You understand what the venue wants out of it. You want the venue to get profit off you want the venue to profit off the food and alcohol. And then it's like, okay, now we have a date in place. What about, have you ever run into like weird things about playing like the space is kind of either odd or it's small or it's in like a weird shape where it's like, how are we going to section this out for your vendors?
I think they're all odd and different, but that's what makes it really cool, you know, and we just kind of shape it out. I don't know. We go in and we get with each other. We bring the laptop or we bring a piece of paper and we kind of draw out what's going on. And we make everything work. The great thing about like using these, like working with these vendors is they're very conformative as well. Like you can have some markets you get the 10 by 10 space with the tent and they make this whole like experience in their tent and they can make just as great of an experience on a 6-foot table because the stuff that it's like their livelihood, what they're making. So they really have a good time making that presentable to the consumer.
Now, logistically, what do you have to do? Because I think it's a good segue. Logistically, from the getting a vendor to sign up, show up, etc. side, besides that vendor being like, hey, I want to do a juicy market, I want to do it on this date. What else do you have to figure out with them as far as like, I'm thinking collecting a payment, to get the space, and like, what if the payment's not on time, or what if they're a good fit for maybe one particular market, but has there ever been a situation where like, hey, we think you may be a better fit for this market coming up and not this one, or has that ever come up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
just like the logistics of working with a vendor, I think, and especially because you both were vendors for other markets. So just want to hear that side of the story.
We definitely make sure everyone works together. The cool thing is we haven't really I don't think we've run into having a vendor not work for the event. I think we haven't had anything super. I think maybe my Playboys are the most bizarre thing that we have, and we're really into it. I mean, you have your scandal candles. So we don't really run into that a lot or at all, right? We don't.
No.
I don't remember anything like that. But people not paying on time is definitely something that happens.
It does. And then Monica's really good with like...
I was going to say, because that's the way you're making money on this business,
yeah.
right? Okay.
Well, because the payment goes towards
flyers and
renting
permits.
out the space, or, every venue is different. The flyers. I mean,
the drag
people
queens,
don't
the
understand
bands.
how much like the physical advertising is. Like hand flyers, they add up, but I love them. Because the cost of
expenses are like your physical advertising, not necessarily your digital advertising, but then if you're working directly with the band, the DJ, or the performers, you got to pay them.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to pay for the permit if you need permits. Like you got to pay for the permits.
Yeah, it's different
like
per venue.
And then the venue, I'm guessing, does the venue's charging you to be at the venue, so you got to pay them?
Yeah, it kind of weighs out.
Okay.
Depending on like what market we have. Like some of the venues, it's on a day or a night where they wouldn't normally have a lot of customers. So we're bringing them customers. So they're basically making that money. So it's kind of like a deal we work out. But other places we do have to pay to be there. And
is there a number of do you have to determine like a number of vendors you have to get to sign up? And maybe you don't have to worry about that anymore. But like maybe those first times that you were doing this, was there like, hey, we have to get like 8 vendors to pay, to pay on time before this date for this to even break even, not even necessarily be profitable? Like, is there like certain like numbers that you figure out beforehand, or?
Well, we see how many fit first.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we kind of figure out what we should charge. We also like to be affordable. I think that's like our number one is the prices that we give. We are making it more affordable for the vendors. So that's like kind of the first thing. So then we kind of figure out, how do we make money? We make sure that we give ourselves something, because we do put in a lot of work.
Yeah, because like if it was just breaking even all the time, then it's like one thing. So you have to like the business has to sustain itself, but then you have to get paid something for your effort.
For sure. And we have to pay for that website. Costs money to just have.
Yeah.
But if someone doesn't pay on time, you're really good with like emailing them and just saying, hey, like, are you still interested in doing this market? Like, can you still do it? And then we'll get an answer from there. And then sometimes we will have a wait list where if someone doesn't pay, we'll go onto the wait list. So we'll always try and fill that space.
Gotcha. I want to ask about from a retail experience, because I think, backtracking a little bit, the what I was saying before of like, markets and things like that. I was like, it's kind of like lame, something that like my moms, my aunts did. But then like I go to markets now and they're fun because there's things like DJs and performers and drag queens and alcohol and listen, I'm not saying alcohol makes everything better, but in this instance, it does. And it enhances the experience. It enhances the vibe.
It's nice to have the option.
Yeah. It's something to do.
Yeah.
From a retail experience, because there's all this talk, or at least there was more of it, maybe pre.
There's schools around here, so
I love how that was like a comedy gag. Like I was about to start, and it's like, and I'm like, and I was like, it's like a Mel Brooks joke. Like I'm just gonna keep talking. Like, Anyway, about the retail experience, I think I was hearing this more before COVID, but there's this idea of like physical retail is going away and everything's online and digital. Yet people are going to these events, so obviously that's not the case. What would you attribute that to? Is it just because you're promoting an experience rather than like, hey, we're this brand that does this thing? Because I think the people who are saying or complaining like people aren't coming to physical stores anymore. I'm like, well, maybe that's just they don't want to go to your store, or maybe they just don't like your experience. Not necessarily like nobody's going, because like people are coming to this and engaging with all these different businesses, and like yes, you're promoting things online, but you're doing physical marketing and people are showing up and they're coming back or they're going to the other events. So
what may also go along with like the way you scroll through, say, Instagram or social media, you get to scroll through a market. If you're going to just like, it's hard to go to the store because like you're kind of boxed into just the store. But what we're offering is completely different experiences as you go along. So it's kind of as if you're scrolling through your social media.
All right. And I want to actually harp on that a little bit because, there are places where you can quote unquote scroll through different shops, right? We're near Providence Place Mall.
True.
People want to, but like the experience now versus going to a mall like way back in the day when like watch any 80s teen movie, like the mall was the place where everybody hung out and did their thing.
Malls also had concerts.
And malls also had like other things to do and food courts and all that stuff, where now it's like less of a thing. And even outdoor shopping centers and stuff. So like you can be outdoors and go to a shopping center, but it's not the same experience as coming to one of your things, But
also most of the stuff that you're going to find at our markets, they're one of a kind. It's like these local, I think something came really great out of COVID, which a lot of people got to be able to be creative. Like we were bartenders running bars, and we got to take a step back and learn how to create something. So all of this stuff, like COVID, I think was creative people's little like incubation period where they're like, okay, what do I do with my free time now?
Yeah.
So we have all these like amazing vendors and artists that came out of that, and we got the chance to showcase them. So
I also feel like we always have different vendors and we're always at different locations. So it's like the vendors you saw last week, you're going to see some of them this Friday, but not all of them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and that's why we try to post what vendors are going to be there. So it's kind of like you're scrolling through Instagram and you see something you like, that they're going to be at a market on Friday, and it's not the same place that you were last week. So I think that's what keeps people coming too. We're always at different locations and there's always different vendors.
Is there any plans or any ideas that you both have tying in the digital and the physical experience besides just using the digital platforms to help promote the physical marketplace or the physical event? And I'll try to further detail this question from an article I read. It was concerning the fact, this is pre-COVID, but it was interesting. A large, they didn't want to say the name, but it was a large online retailer of clothes. They, people weren't coming into the physical stores. They were selling everything online. So they shut down certain physical stores. What had happened was, and what they figured out later on, much to their dismay, is that when they closed, I think 3 or 4 physical stores in like the New England area, they said, hey, they weren't performing, nobody was going, so they shut them down. What had happened was that the online sales for that region tanked, like went from everything to like damn near nothing. What they figured out was people were going into the physical stores to see the items and try them on and like get a better feel for the brand and then go home and order it and then get it shipped to them just due to convenience. So maybe they were going because they're already in the area, but like they wanted to get the physical experience of the brand, then they would go home and shop. So it was like this, they figured out the hard way that there was like a symbiotic relationship, that they were like, oh, if we shut down the physical, even though it was coming in, we may have saved money on the rent, but then the online sales tanked, so they shot themselves in the foot, which was
so they're basically going in, trying things out, and then ordering them online at home is what it was happening.
Yeah, and they didn't realize that until after they shut those stores down and saw the online sales just tank for like that entire part of the U.S. So with that being said, because you're selling the experience, you're selling the event, and the idea of being able to like scroll through these different vendors that are one of a kind, is there any ideas or plans to try and tie together the physical and digital experience, like to try and make them more symbiotic? Because like when I read that article, I thought that was interesting. I'm like, oh, like wow, one affects the other in ways that you didn't think about.
I think if that for us is when we put on blast the vendors. So when we spotlight them, we're bringing you directly to their site. Like we tag them on Instagram. Like their website is linked to that. So I don't know if that's answering the question, but that may be our way of like, hey, you can come to this market and see this. This is how you can reach out to them on an online platform. So I don't know. I think that's our way of doing that, of connecting the two.
We also have newsletters, like weekly newsletters, where we'll like, you're really good with that, with their photo and like their about me, and then we'll link either their Instagram or their website.
Okay, the newsletter thing makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, so like you subscribe to our newsletter, and then sometimes it's people that follow us on Instagram, sometimes it's people that we meet at markets. So you're getting that blast of where we're going to be, what food truck's going to be there, the band or DJ, as well as the vendors that are going to be there. You usually do what, 6, 7?
Yeah, it depends on the market.
Vendors?
I mean, if we only have one market that week, I try to put all the vendors on that email. But if we have multiple, I just do like 4 or 5 or 6.
Any plans for like an online store, so that way if somebody can't come to the market, they can buy some products?
I mean, we'll have our own like retail that we kind of want to do because we love our brand. But all these vendors, we go like we have like a large group of vendors, so it would be hard to just pick the ones that we want to,
Gotcha,
spotlight. Like there's just so many great ones. So like we would have like this. Really, I mean, we'd be like the Amazon of Rhode Island for small business. Yeah. I don't know. It
asking this question
like
as a joke, but if you seriously want to answer it, go for it. Any plans for Juicy Market in the metaverse? Will I be able to go on like Roblox or something like that and like, oh, I can go to the Juicy Market metaverse?
I don't know. I don't think that we understand that.
I don't.
So,
My son does.
I don't think anyone does.
My son does, and I have no idea what it is. He like wants gift cards to like use. I'm like, what is like a gift card to what though? Like it's weird.
I don't know. I really
they're
like
they're already doing like Travis Scott concerts in the metaverse. So like,
are they?
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
That's already been done. I'm just wondering, like, is there going to be a future where like my grandkids are going to be visiting like Juicy Market, like virtual reality edition?
That's so wild.
Maybe if your son takes over Juicy when we want to retire.
He already told me he's not. So I mean,
maybe he will if it's like, oh, wow, like wait, I can do it in Roblox. Yeah, Mom, I got this.
We're like, hey, we can.
Like, I remember a few years ago, I asked him like what he wanted to do for work, and he literally told me he wanted to work at Applebee's.
Love that. Hey, I started serving at Newport Creamery.
No, I
look
get
where
it.
We are now.
No, I'm a server, but it's like you don't want to take over the business that I'm doing for you. You want to work at Applebee's?
Applebee's is fun.
Applebee's.
I want to eat good in the neighborhood, so.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you find it helpful of being on the vendor side of things? Do you think that made you more
absolutely
empathetic to like the needs of the vendors? And have there been vendors where it was like, you were both saying, hey, like my first show, I was terrified. So when you get a vendor, especially if it's their first show, do you feel like you want to like hold their hand a little bit through that first experience?
For sure.
Gotcha.
I feel like that's what Mace, I don't know like how a lot of other markets started, but I know for us, I think that's what kind of like helps us have that relationship because we totally get it. Like
Yeah.
we understand like what you need to do because you could have the coolest product, but you have to push it.
Yeah.
So we've had multiple vendors where we come in, we're like, hey, you gotta have like set up your tent a little,
Yeah, there were a few times
put a
like, we'll-
tablecloth on there.
Yeah, we
Don't
walk
just
around.
put a table.
We'll
yeah.
ask them how they're doing. We even like suggested a vendor like not like what to do with their business, but like, hey, like you should, if you're selling clothing, like you should definitely bring a rack so people can physically see what you're selling when they're walking by. And we had another vendor. It was her first time vending, and we both bought something from her. She did great. She's doing another market with us for Park Market. I like that we check on our vendors. I like that we check on them. I like that when we're there, we make sure to take a picture of every single vendor that's there. I like that at the end, we ask them how they did, how they're like.
So it's not like they paid and here's the space. It's like, okay,
yeah,
like, on your own. Like, have fun.
No, we definitely, but I think that comes at the way that Gretchen and I are. We actually care. It's not like we're doing it for, like we're checking in because we really want them to do well.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, hey, like make sure you vend with us again. No, it's like, hey, how's it going over there? Like, what do you, like
as somebody who ran a small clothing line, like way back in the day, and doing trunk shows in New York, there were a couple like where I was paying extra money for things like, hey, like I want a cocktail at the bar named after. It's like, oh yeah, we can do that. Like that was like some service they offered. Paid that, and then when I went up to the bar, like, where was our cocktail? And they already had our money, and they were like, "Oh, too bad." And I'm like, "Oh, well,
gosh,
I don't know if I want to vend with you again." Like,
you would never
and
do that.
it was like kind of like, "All right, here's your table, here's your spot." It was like stick it out, and it was like, "Have fun." And I was like, "All right, why are these other businesses getting all this hand holding?" And it was because the person who ran it, like that was her boyfriend's business, or like that was her nephew. And like everybody else, like we're looking at these other tables, like, "Did you get that help?" And they're like, "Nope." So I think it's interesting that you're like, no, like it's not just transactional and like you got thing and then like you're done.
We even try to
we gotta
rotate.
focus on the event, so whatever.
Yeah, no, we even try to like rotate the spaces. Like people, like there's certain people who vend with us very often. We'll put them in a good spot. And we'll put them by the bathroom one time, and like it's just the way that it works. And we've tried to make it fair between everyone. So newer vendors, we try to give them a better spot so they have a better chance. It's just
I just want to add, the bathroom is not a bad spot because everyone has to use the bathroom. Whoever's listening to this.
We've had so many people at big events. No, we've had so many people at big events. Like, I can't believe they put us near the bathroom. And then by the end of it, they're like, oh, I'm so happy we were by the bathroom. Literally. It's just so funny. And we just sit there like, okay, like what do we don't want to like kind of go tat for tat about the bathrooms or the spots in general. Like,
I just had to add that as you said. I'm like, hold on, I have to cut you off.
Is there a level of I would assume there is, especially because you're doing different events at different locations, but how much do you customize per event? Whether it's like switching out vendors, like do you try to like group certain vendors together, or if like, hey, I have two clothing vendors that like make similar items,
we put them apart.
Like you, like, do you put them apart so that's not like a fatigue of like, here's 5 clothing people and here's like 6 like food people?
Well, I think that helps with us being vendors. In the past, we've been at events where we're next to, I think,
the person that sells the same thing as
the same thing,
right.
And it's just like, what? You have no chance.
It doesn't make sense.
It's whoever walks over sooner. You got to be on different ends, and
so like
we think about that.
So you do think about like what other things do you have to customize? Because I'm thinking like because like the thing I DJ'd was I got hired through the vendor, right? So not the vendor. I'm mixing my terms up here.
No, it's okay.
I got hired through the location, basically the brewery, rather than you. So was there, just from like a logistics perspective, was there a concern about that, or is it like, oh, like hey, he's not the guy we usually work with? Just kidding. And feel free if there was. You're not gonna hurt my feelings.
I mean,
from a behind the scenes perspective, I'm wondering like, I'm wondering. I'm like, I wonder if they're like, well, we don't know this guy. Like
we definitely we thought we didn't, like when we looked you up, we were happy, but.
Well, when we go into places, we ask them if they recommend someone, and we'll use the person they usually recommend because we're going into your space.
If you always try to bring in your own people, or if they have a recommendation, like how much more do you customize besides just splitting tables? Besides, like we have the space, like are other things customized in your head? Like, hey, we have these DJs or these bands or these performers on deck. Let's use performer A for event C but not event B because it may not work? Like how much of that like goes into the thought process?
For a lot of venues, they have people they usually book. Like for the breweries, they usually book their own. I think the most customized is our like Wham event because that's all us.
Yeah.
You know,
like
we
the block
don't
parties.
Yeah,
Like even with PVD.
Oh, PVD Fest. Yeah, like we did the whole like roster of DJs that are going to perform then. But that's because that's more our event start to finish. The ones with the breweries are more a collab. Yeah. So, and they usually have the entertainment already on a Friday night. So
Gotcha, okay.
We kind of trust that they're going to pick someone that would go well with what we're offering.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And like the crowd of people that they have.
Yeah.
We did customize a food truck for Friday.
We did.
Yeah. I'm really excited.
We picked Ming's for
Narragansett.
Narragansett, because we love Ming's and we thought it would do well over there.
Ming's, if you're in this possible future episode, just try to get you on.
Yeah, you should come on Friday. Get some Ming's in Narragansett Brewery.
When it comes to, I'll try to make it. When it comes to customization, besides, like, are there any other things about the experience that people may not realize or not see that like you have to consider and think about?
I think mainly what we do, I mean, not only like we make sure the vendors make sense, we put them in the right spot. We also really make sure the space makes sense for people moving and eating. Like, we make sure there's tables to eat at. Like we don't like too much stuff in front of the bar. We want people to be able to get to the bar. We want to make sure there's a couple tables. So if we have this great food truck or the brewery or restaurant that we're at offers great food that you can actually sit down and eat it.
Yeah. We don't want to take too many tables away from the venue that we are at. Because the goal is like, we want you to have fun. We want you to have a drink, a cocktail or soda, grab a bite to eat and then shop. We don't want you to shop and then leave. Like we want you to literally stay and just have an experience with us.
I mean, they're 4 or 5 hour events. I mean, when we do Wham, they're 6 hours? So
6 to 7.
Like to make sure that you have something to do in that time frame where you actually want to hang out there.
Yeah.
I have a question more about retailing in general. So I think it's interesting. You've both been on the vendor side where you have a product and you're selling it in the setting, and then you've also on the flip side running the event, the market that a vendor sells their product in. I want to ask this question because you've been on both sides of the equation, so I think you both have an interesting, possibly really interesting perspective on this. I'll preface it with, J. Crew, they don't have it anymore, may it rest in peace, but there was a time where they had, and menswear was kind of like the it thing in fashion. It was getting more coverage, than ever before. And J. Crew decided, hey, we're going to do the liquor store concept, where it was an old liquor store. It was in Manhattan, but it was an old space that used to be a liquor store and a bar way back in the day. And they kind of revitalized that, and they kept all the liquor bottles on the walls, and it kind of felt like this old school liquor store and a bar inside. But then they put all the menswear products in there. So all the menswear products were put in a bar / liquor store setting, even though you couldn't actually get a drink. But it was same products, sometimes exclusive products, but like completely different setting and shopping experience than actually going to a physical going to a physical J. Crew to buy men. It was only the menswear stuff. So it was a specific J. Crew menswear store called the liquor store, and they had like sometimes they would do events, but then they would have like certain exclusive products. But the rest of it was stuff you could buy online or get in a regular J. Crew. But that became a thing. So with that being said, have you noticed or have you seen that the product is one thing, but the setting that the product is in, how much do you think that affects the sale and the transaction?
I think the setting is a huge part of
and like the context around it.
Yeah, I think having an idea of what you're going into makes you excited to be there and purchase there. You're already kind of loosened up by like dancing around and maybe having a cocktail, and then you're like, oh, okay, this stuff is cool. I could have gotten this I don't know, at a different market, but it feels more comfortable to me to.
So I'm guessing like those vendors can like sell can for the most part sell their stuff online if they wanted to, but it's a whole different experience than like.
I think a lot of the things that vendors sell, you either it's one of a kind, so it's going to be really hard to sell that one thing because a lot of it's like thrift. So it's just one product. And then there's like
handmade, but like
it's like all
Sagittarius Lost Art. I don't think she has two things that are ever the same. Her stuff is so awesome.
It's great. Where I also will say, like, I learned before Juicy, do markets that make sense for your brand. Like, if we're like, I was at a location that, and I was selling candles, and
that was going to be my next question. So this is perfect.
I was at a location, and at the time I was just applying for every market. And it just didn't my product just didn't make sense at that location. And I love all of our vendors, but like, there's some locations where your product doesn't make sense at that one location, but it'll make sense elsewhere, if that makes sense.
Have you had to sit down with the vendor and like talk to them about that? Like, hey, this is going to make more sense when we do the brewery tour versus like the.
I don't know if it's a sit down. I think it's like
we did tell one vendor.
Like had to inform like.
Yeah, I think we've definitely had to be like. Sometimes we don't have a great idea. Like we give everyone a chance to.
Yeah.
Like we don't really
want to assume.
Yeah, we don't want to assume that they're not going to work at a specific market. Because also you could have a certain type of product and the way that you sell it could sell it to different demographics.
Yeah.
So it's hard for us until we meet that person and kind of see their flow.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not doing well at a market, we kind of like sway them in a different direction. I think that's what we do more than like saying like, absolutely don't do this market. This is not for you.
Oh no.
Because it's not always like that. But if they're like, oh, I had it, you know what? It wasn't great for me.
And then that's when we like step in and we're like, well, we do have this market coming up and we definitely like think that your stuff would work at this one. It will be like 2 months later. But I mean, I like, we don't want to just like don't
try again.
Yeah. Like we don't want you to just like stop or like you think like what you're selling doesn't work just because you didn't do well, you know?
I mean, our markets, they're very different, even though we have the same goal in mind of like the experience. We do have different demographics, like breweries. There's like there's a certain type of person who loves a brewery, you know, like they're really into like craft, and so more like handmade products work well at breweries rather than clothing. You know, clothing I think does better at like our larger markets where like you have all walks of life just kind of walking around or like popping in. But breweries, people mainly go for the beer when they go to the brewery market. Yeah. So that's kind of how we sway different.
I love Brew Tour.
Me too.
I love it.
So I think there's a lot of gems here. Any advice for vendors, whether they work with your market or another market, you know, besides like, hey, pick the market that's right for you, like any advice on how a vendor should go about that, or just things that vendors, because you've been on both sides of the equation, things that vendors should look out for, things that vendors should do, like should take into consideration when they set up their booth and how they present, like any advice for vendors going into any market, like not just yours.
I definitely think vendors should apply for whatever market they definitely want to. You're not going to know until you try it out. There have been markets where I don't do that well and I'll try it again. It's just, you know, it could just be, it just wasn't the location. It just wasn't my demographic, because I do sell scandals, which are like naked bodies.
Ooh.
Juicy. But definitely try the market. If you don't do well, don't think that you didn't do a good job or they didn't as a host. You know, just try another location is what I'm saying. And just kind of go through their website or Instagram and just see what the vibe is. Like,
see if you can match.
Yeah. Like
what
you
they're
don't
offering.
Like there's a market that is a New England based market, and I wanted to do it for over a year. And I actually finally went, and I realized that definitely was not the market for me. So I didn't apply. It was just like, okay.
Oh yeah, visiting markets. Like a lot of markets, they run bi-weekly or monthly. So it's always good to just go and check it out and see like, hey, what are they doing over here? Does it make sense for me? Like, do I fit in this environment?
Yeah. And the good thing is we have one every week. So it's like, you can always stop by.
And we have a lot of different types of events. Like when we were doing, I mean, the Hotel Providence one was outside. So we're done with that for the season. But yeah, you can pop in and visit any of ours.
Yeah.
And they're all different.
You want to know what I just realized? They could visit our market. They would not know who to go to. They wouldn't know to come up to us.
But that's, remember when he was doing his not stalking, looking for us.
It's like, let me go to this market and see if I can vend, but I don't know who to go to.
No, that is something that we have been talking about, because even vendors, when they sign up for our markets,
Like, I didn't know.
they don't
when I
even
met you,
know.
I was like, oh, you run this thing? I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's like vendors will literally, we literally will turn around and be like, hi. And they're like, hi, do you know who's running it? And we're like, oh, yeah. I'm Gretchen and it's Monica. It's like, we are.
Well, someone suggested, one of the vendors, who was it? Was it Crafty Row? Oh, Be Seen. She had mentioned that we should just put our picture in our email, like as our signature.
All of my pictures are filtered.
Yeah, but they can get the concept of you.
I guess.
The filter.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to take pictures together.
I will send
Oh,
a
it's
filter.
me with the puppy dog ears.
Literally, or like the
just
rabbit Snapchat filter. Those are my best photos, I'm not going to lie.
The filters.
Yes.
I don't know. I think like I look so weird in a filter. So I don't know. Every time I look at myself when I'm in a filter, I don't know if it's because my eyes are so blue when they put the filter on. I look like an alien from outer space, and I think I look so bizarre in a filter. Like when I get edited in a photo, that's great. Like that's different. But the filters make me look bizarre, and that's why I just rather not take a picture at all.
Oh my God, give me all the fake lashes.
One thing I noticed, like you were saying the brew tour earlier, right? Which I think years ago, that idea of like, oh, I'm gonna go to like this market at a brewery. Like if you were saying, like, even like pre-COVID, I think if you were to say that, people were like, dude, people go to a brewery to drink beer. They don't go to a brewery to like shop for other things. But now it's like, at least for me, like it's commonplace. Like to me, if I'm going to a brewery and that's the only thing they do is just the beer, for me, it feels kind of weird. I'm like, why isn't there a food truck? Why isn't there music?
Why aren't there
like,
games?
Yeah, like why aren't there other things for me to do? Maybe we're all spoiled in that sense.
I think
but
we're
like,
all spoiled,
Yeah,
but
we
I love
are.
that
But-
for us.
I think it's brilliant.
So, like, that's the other part of the equation, is that, do you think that is you and your market introducing that idea to breweries, or do you think that that's breweries and a post-COVID world where, like, hey, we got to figure out other ways to make money in case something like this happens again? It's like, you know what I mean? So let's think of other ways to use spaces. Like, do you think it's more like breweries are like open and they're like, no, we need a way to milk more money from this? Or is it more like folks such as yourselves presenting the idea to a brewery and being like, here's another way you can make money? And they're like, oh, or do you think it's like a little bit
we
of
definitely
both?
didn't start the breweries. There's been markets before us that have done breweries. We didn't start our markets doing breweries. We did restaurants and like venues.
Yeah.
So, but when we started, it just made sense.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really too much of a calculated thing behind it, other than, hey, people who go to a brewery like to do like fun stuff too, and like to look at cool stuff.
If you think about it, though, when a couple is shopping at the mall, the girl walks in and the man will wait outside. So if you're at a brewery, the man is drinking the beer and the woman's shopping.
There's a reason why the IKEA in Germany has like a men's area now, where it literally has but only the ones in Germany, not in the US. But it's got beer on tap for free.
What?
In couches with like Xboxes and stuff. So basically, like you drop your
Just-
husband off. It's a husband, like you
It's
know,
like a husband man cave.
No, like so that's basically what they made. So like, because they already have like the kids area. If like you like, there's like certain IKEAs where you can drop your kids off at like a kids player, so you can go shop. But they decided, like the Germany ones, they were like, hey, let's put free beer on tap and have like a men's area and just have them sit there if they don't want to shop with their girlfriends or their wives.
That's great.
And they put it towards the end, so like you just come pick them up after.
That's
my goodness.
genius.
So I just wanted to mention
Well,
that
I
fun
get
fact.
it. I get
When you're
that.
like, when you said men don't want to go, like if it's a brewery, the guy's like, hey, honey, go shop. Like I'll
Yeah,
just drink this beer with my
literally.
buddies.
It's a great couples event.
It really
It's a
is.
great
Like this
couples
past
event. There's
Friday, I
something
realized
for
there was a
everyone
lot
to
of
do.
couples, and I spoke to so many of the girlfriends, and the guys were just hanging
Yeah, but
out.
Not only couples, if you just have children,
Yeah.
breweries are great because I mean, there's
Be
no
careful
hard.
with that one.
There's no like hard
Be
alcohol.
careful with that quote. Like,
No,
I've
but
got
there's-
children.
No, but it's true because there's no like hard alcohol. You're not getting out of hand. You're enjoying a beer. Your kid can go play it. Like breweries offer like a whole experience too. And now they like come like the kids come to the tables and they're like, "Mom, like this is cool," or "Dad, this
Oh
is
yeah.
cool."
Sometimes
Like
the kids are like the sellers.
You're like, Mom, I want this. Like, honey, it's $100. I want. It's like, oh my God. Okay.
And they'll do it.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
But it's I just
stealth
think like
marketing right there. It's like, all right,
It's like,
get them while they're young.
get the
yeah.
kids in
Like,
there. But it is like there's just so many like draws to the brewery experience. When you enjoy beer, you can go with your kids, you can go with your partner, your husband, like.
Or if you're enjoying a drink outdoors and it's like lively, like you feel like you're at a party, you don't feel like you're just shopping.
Yeah. I also feel like the fact that there's live music helps and there's a food truck helps. Like, and it's always different. And I think that's what keeps people interested too. Where it's like, I'm not like a really big beer drinker, but I will definitely go for food. For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it offers a little something for everybody rather than just the pure shopping experience. Like if you're not there to shop, it's almost like you can be there, but for a lot of people there, it's like, oh, here's some food, here's some drinks. Like I'm gonna hang out a little bit, and oh, here's some stuff that I like have like.
Yeah, you don't think that you want, but after a couple of beers, you want it.
Yeah. It's like I didn't want this set of leather coasters with a lion on them, but man, I'm like I've had 3 IPAs and now I'm feeling this lion energy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy this.
I mean, right now is the perfect time to go to these events too, because you can get all your holiday shopping done, and you can just have fun, and you can be like, okay, like have a beer, and you're like, oh, you know what? What's
I'm also just picturing like Black Friday. It's like, hey, everybody, you want to go to the mall? It's like, no,
absolutely
I don't want to go to
not.
that. Like, hey, do you want to go to an event or brewery where we can like drink and then maybe buy something? Like, yeah, that sounds way more appealing.
Absolutely.
Honestly, the mall during Black Friday it's just no.
I'm sweating
Malls
just
in
thinking
general,
about the
I just
mall.
don't want to be in there.
People get tackled for towels. I'm just gonna say that.
I don't know why, but Tackled for Towels just sounds like a great towel business name. Like if they were like football themed.
If any vendors out there want to start something.
Dudes who like they have a man cave downstairs in the bathroom, and it's just like, hey, like, are you a Giants fan? We'll do like the Giants logo from 1945 on a towel set for you.
You know what? We have some markets coming up if you want to
tackling towels.
Should we trademark this? Like, is this a thing?
Yeah. Just get like, oh, you like the Pawtucket Red Sox, the old logo? Like we'll do a navy red Pawtucket Red Sox set.
Tackled for towels.
The ideas that we have, guys, are just outstanding.
Trademarked. You have to buy the name from us. I want 2% cut.
Heard it here first.
Yep. Yes.
Only here.
Yes. Tackling towels. The towels for single men and men who like football way too much. So, what advice would you have given your previous selves before doing, I guess before vending your first event, but then also before running your first event? Like, what have you learned now that you're like, I really wish I would have known that before?
Oh my God.
Calm down.
Calm down. Call your friend to get you out of that rut that you're thinking in your head. Honestly, I feel like when I first started, I was making things I thought people liked instead of things that I actually liked.
Yeah.
And I think after a few markets, I was like, I'm just going to start making things I liked, which is when I started doing the sassy candles.
Okay.
So if you're a vendor, just literally make sure you're producing product that you love and like, because you're going to be more passionate about it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, if you're just catering to customers, you're going to lose interest very quickly. I mean, I did. I think it's normal sometimes when you get in this really rut where it's like, you want to stop, but it's kind of like, take a second, take a step back for a day, maybe like take a break and not do your craft and then do it again because you'll have so many great ideas.
Yeah, don't burn yourself out. That's another thing.
Do you feel burnt out? Are you like, are you signaling something?
This podcast has actually become a cry for help.
It's like red flags.
Talk about that. You've already pinned me that I'm a stalker now. It's gonna be a great episode.
I think stalking is a new term now. more than just a
don't
negative
sugarcoat it
thing.
now.
I think
There's
Don't
literally a
backtrack on what you
Netflix
did.
documentary called I Am a Stalker.
I think stalking is like more of a fun thing now.
Tell that to Joe Goldberg.
Again,
What?
be careful with that quote.
We're gonna get canceled.
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
It's fine. The people from Juicy Market told me it's fun.
We're really
Imagine he has like those like cardboard boxes and they're like, I'm stalking you, but Juicy Market said it's
But
fine. And it's literally on Facebook.
Somebody's gonna make that post now that you just gave him the idea.
And this-
Honest
is
to
the
God.
end to
And
Juicy
imagine if they
Market.
tagged us. Horrific. That's when we would have to change our name to Tackling on Towels.
the good thing is we're very creative people, so we can just, we can do whatever as long as our face isn't on it, so they remember that.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, the face isn't out there now, so.
Well, I mean, he did say our government names.
Maybe,
So.
maybe it was more tactical than we wanted to put off.
Any other advice you would have given to your previous self?
Just keep going. I mean, the sky's the limit.
That's such a parent thing to say.
And I am not a parent. I mean, they call me Mamaka, but I do not have children. Don't really need any in the near future, but I like to help where help is due.
Oh, I will say this for your first market. Don't rush it because you think it's going to make you fast, quick money. Like, take your time on your product and make sure it's exactly how you want it before you do a market.
What are some of the future plans or future goals or things that you would like to see down the road for Juicy Market?
Oh my God, we manifest a building in downtown Providence every time we walk by it. That's going to be like the headquarters of Juicy, where we can have our meetings there. Everything's done there, where we can also do our markets there too.
I was gonna say, like, getting your own venue.
Yeah.
That's the end goal eventually, and like having it in this area. Like, we love Providence. I feel like I thrive when I'm here.
I mean, it's the creative capital.
Yeah. So
And you're on the Creative Capital show, so
that's
you would have thought we planned that.
Wild.
not planned. So I think, like, we even say it and we keep saying like next year. And like, we're even thinking about all the things that we want to do next year. So I definitely think it's going to happen. We've been talking about it for months now that we definitely want a location. The majority of the time we work like in cafes, just like getting work done, where it's like, if we have this space, it's our office. And then on the weekends we can have markets. Or if we have our own space, we can eventually have networking events and so much more markets. And it could be so much bigger.
Well, I think also we are going to start networking our actual selves.
Yeah.
That's like the new
Committed to an event where we're showing face.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think like maybe getting ourselves on social media and showing like our daily lives and like the cool people we get to meet and things that we get to see, I think would be kind of our next kind of push.
Yeah.
For Juicy, just to show a little more.
Mm-hmm. I feel like people know we do it. So it's kind of, why are we just so shy with pictures? I don't know. It's very bizarre.
But I think we got to get out there ourselves, not just the brand.
Yeah, we are 2 weeks from now on a Friday.
So we're at the end, and this is where pretty much I'm giving you both open mic to say, promote, bolster, basically say whatever you want. It's open mic, floor is yours. Hot takes, whatever you want to do to close out the show. So the floor is yours for the both of y'all.
Monica?
Well, we'll do a little plug. We have Park Market coming up. Oh, well, no. First plug, Narragansett Brewery this Friday, November 4th, 5 to 9. Ming's food truck's going to be there. We have 16 different vendors, so you can start your holiday shopping then. And then we come to Park Market. We're excited for. We have the first event. It's a 2-day event. It will be the weekend before Thanksgiving. So it's the 19th and the 20th, Saturday and a Sunday. We do a drag performance on the Saturdays, and we have live music every Sunday that we do it.
So November 19th and 20th?
Yes.
Okay. Just because this podcast is gonna live forever, so I'm just trying to get exact dates.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's like,
19th and
shit, why
20th.
is it not happening?
Yeah, so November 19th and 20th, and then we do the 2 weekends before Christmas.
These are all at the
All at Park Theater.
in
Cranston.
And Cranston, yeah. So those are our like big holiday shopping extravaganza where we have 16 vendors. It's a 2-day event, so if you can't come on the Saturday, you can definitely come on Sunday. The drag queens will be there every Saturday just for an hour, a little fun little time. I think they're around like 1, 2 o'clock. They're always late, so I cannot pinpoint the exact time. But the Sundays we have Jake Hunsinger performing. Love him. And then Kenny Hopkins, which is a Cranston staple. So we're excited for that. And then we take a little pause in January because everyone's broke and tired. So are we. And then we come back for our Valentine's Day event, which we will post on our website and our social media once we have like the exact location pinpointed. Visit our website, juicymarketpvd.com. Gretchen?
Hi. You just pretty much said everything.
Oh.
But that's perfectly fine.
Well, with that, I think that's a good way to end it on. Plug in. I mean, of course, you gotta plug your own stuff. So I think that's a good way to
those vendors there.
Yeah, exactly. A good way to end it. With that being said, Gretchen, Monica, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Really
for
appreciate having
us.
you on the show.
Yeah, this was not as scary as I thought it'd be.
Yeah, this was fun.
It took me a
That
solid,
could be like a tagline, like "Go on the show." Not as scary as I thought it was going to be. Really,
That should be it.
Really help me out
I
here.
am so sorry.
That could be the name of this episode.
No one's going to listen to the show after this. Gretchen, Monica, thank you for sharing your story, sharing the experiences with us, and the advice for vendors or people who are trying to just run a business. Really appreciate you coming on. This has been the Creative Capital Show, the show for entrepreneurs, creative stories from the Creative Capital. Until next time, everybody, keep on creating.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's it for this episode of the Creative Capital Show. Thank you for listening, and a special thanks goes to this episode's guests, Gretchen Lizarda and Monica Martin. The Creative Capital Show is hosted, recorded, edited, mixed, and produced by me, Jason Sylvia. You can listen to the Creative Capital Show over at our website, creativecapitalshow.com. We're also available on Anchor FM, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast hosting platforms. If you like the show, please subscribe. Helps the show out a lot. And be sure to follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I hope you enjoyed the show, and until next time, keep on creating.